Hi everyone, this is Sue Reynolds, and this is our first webinar in the Journeys Are For Everyone series. I'm really excited to be talking with everyone. This is actually the second time that we're recording this. We had a wonderful group last night, asked great questions, and it was really fun. And unfortunately, I didn't do the technology right, and it didn't record. So I'm trying again. So my name is Sue Reynolds. I'm the author of The Athlete Inside and also a motivational speaker, which is something I greatly enjoy. So a little bit about my story for those of you who don't know me. I was an obese person at 335 pounds and decided to start losing weight the old-fashioned way through sound nutrition and exercise. And I ended up losing 200 pounds. And in that process, I started exercising and discovered that I absolutely loved triathlon, and was shocked to discover that there was an athlete hiding inside of me. Started doing triathlons, and I've ended up qualifying 5 times for the triathlon world championship in the draft legal sprint, and then 1 time in the Ironman 70.3 distance triathlon. So I just feel very, very blessed, and I have greatly enjoyed this journey, and I want to use my stories to maybe help other people realize that you can transform your life at any age, and that kindness has the power to change a life. There were so many people that were kind to me in my journey, and I talk about that in the book. Um, so here's my other story. I was a nonprofit founder of a very successful nonprofit that teaches community leaders about the process of change. And I started realizing that the change that I was experiencing just went right along with what we were teaching about the steps of systemic change. So a friend of mine suggested that I kind of merge these two things, these two worlds, and that I maybe use my own triathlon and weight loss journey to talk with folks about the process of change, and how we might all go about becoming the person that we want to be. So that's what we're doing with these webinars. I'm calling the webinars Journeys Are For Everyone, and we're just talking really about the process of change. Some of them will be about change steps, like this one we're talking about how to write high energizing goals. But other webinars might be about things that a triathlete might like to learn, like how to quickly put on a wetsuit, or how to store all of the gazillion pieces of gear that triathletes have. So, but these webinars are really designed for everybody who would like to start a journey or who is on a journey. So it's for people who are interested in weight loss or fitness or triathlon, but it's about for anybody who wants to make a personal change or an institutional change, or even a societal change. And then tonight we're talking about goals that energize. So why goals? Goals are really important. And, when we talk with a lot of community organizations and individuals, a lot of times we get, oh man, we just don't have the time to do strategic planning. And, why do we really need to do this? Goals are really important. It's because they give us direction. Before I had the goal of doing a triathlon, I didn't have any direction to my exercise. Before I decided to try to be a competitive triathlete, I didn't have any reason for working my tail off every day in workouts. So goals really give us direction. And then the other thing they do is when we look at a goal and we see where our current state is, and then did we get to the place where we want to be, that gives us really good information about the impact of the strategies or the interventions that we put in place. So if I'm wanting to be faster in the run, And we think that if I do A, B, and C, that will happen. And so we pre-test and then we test again, and I'm not any faster. Then we know that A, B, and C didn't work. And so that gives us really good information to make adjustments in my training. So goals are really, really important for triathletes and for anybody on a journey. So let's look at some of the traits of energizing goals. First of all, for a goal to really be energizing, it has to be your goal. It can't be your parents' goal or your coach's goal or your boss's goal for you. It's got to be something that you believe and you want in your heart of hearts. So you maybe have read a lot recently about people who say you have to have a strong why in order to reach your goal. And that why is really your reason for wanting to do the things that you need to do, make the choices that you need to make in order to reach your goal. That why is really important, and it has to be your why. It can't be your coach's why, it can't be your boss's why, or your family's why. It's got to be yours. So I mentioned that I've lost 200 pounds, but I should also tell you that I had been dieting all my life, and I didn't get successful at dieting until I was 60. And I think one of the reasons that my diets were never successful is because they were never my goals. I tended to diet in the beginning because I was thinking that I should look thin, like society wanted me to look. I felt like, oh, I should look like Barbie. So I'd go on a diet. But when that plate of cookies was sitting in front of me, um, wanting to look like Barbie wasn't a strong enough why for me to keep me from eating that plate of cookies. It wasn't my why, it was society's why. And later, my family really encouraged me to lose weight. And I had started a diet, but I never stuck with it. And I think at that time, it was my family's why. It was their goal for me, it wasn't my own. So finally, when I became successful, it was when my goal became my goal. I was tired of all the things I couldn't do because of my size, and that made me energized, and it made it my goal, and that made all the difference in the world. So to be energizing, the goals have to be your goals. It can't be anybody else's goals. And then goals should also be well written. There's three parts to a well-written goal. You want to say who's going to change, and then what they will do. That's like the benchmark of that goal, and then a time frame by when. So for example, in my triathlon, one of my goals was this: the who is going to change? Me, Sue. What did we want me to be able to do? A flying dismount. And by when? And by May 9th, which was the date of my first race that year. So that told me who we were going to change, what we wanted me to do, and when I would do it by. And because I had that goal, it kind of then dictated what I needed to do over the next few months in order to make that happen, both in training and also in attitude to get enough guts up to try that flying dismount for the first time. So, so a well-written goal has those three parts. Then, well-written goals are also monitored with data. There's three stages of data. The first one is baseline data. That tells you where you're starting out. And that's really important. With one of the leadership teams that we were working with, in our beginning years of working with our nonprofit, we didn't collect baseline data. And what we found is that teams sometimes set their goal, their target data, actually below where they currently were because they didn't know where they were. So we want to collect baseline data to begin with through swim tests or bike power tests or whatever. We're finding that baseline data. Then we want to set a target data. So we want to say, okay, if my swim is at this point, where can I get in this amount of time? What's a reasonable step? And then when we get to that date, we want to evaluate. And that evaluation data is really important because it tells us if our strategies for that goal worked. So here's, again, a couple of examples from triathlon. So if we look at the flying mount, dismount, my baseline data was that in October of 2015, I couldn't do it. My target date was in May of 2016. I'd be able to do it. We worked on that. I practiced it, got up enough guts to do it. And then on the evaluation by May, I could do it. So sometimes it's a, no, I can't do it. Yes, I can. I mean, it doesn't always have to be like with numbers. In the swim in the beginning, in 2015, my time in the swim test for 100 meters was 1:57.8. And we thought with continuing training and building my fitness, as well as making improvements in technique, you know, my goal was that I could take 5 seconds off of that. And we did. We got 5.5 seconds off of that time. So yeah, so that's kind of how those goals work. And you know, when you reach those goals, when you're collecting your evaluation data, and I can say, woohoo, you know, did a flying dismount, or woohoo, I took a second off of my personal best in the pool. I mean, that's energizing. That's exciting. So okay, so the one thing I wanted to mention with monitoring goals with data is that you have to make sure you're controlling all the variables. That's really important. You need to control, in triathlon, for example, you need to control variables like sleep, nutrition, what your previous day's workout was like. And again, in my early triathlon training, I did a swim test. And the next time I did a swim test, I really expected to improve, and I didn't. But then when I started looking, I thought, oh my gosh, no wonder I didn't improve. I didn't sleep last night. I didn't eat well today. I had a really hard workout yesterday. It's late in the day, and the last time I did my baseline test, it was early in the morning when I was fresh. So it's really important now whenever I go into a swim test or a bike power test, I'm always making sure that all those variables are the same, so that we know it's my change in fitness or my change in technique that caused the results. So, okay. Another thing about a challenge energizing goals is that they're challenging, but they're reachable with hard work. So I've worked with leadership teams that set goals that were so minuscule. I mean, they're so low that it took like next to nothing to get to that benchmark. And when that team succeeded, they really didn't feel like they'd accomplished very much. There was really nothing to celebrate because the step they had taken was tiny. On the other hand, we've also worked with teams that have put their goals so high that they're just, you know, it's just impossible to reach those goals. And it's discouraging. I mean, why try? You'll know you'll never get to that goal. So where you place your target is really important. It has to be challenging. It can't be too easy, but not so challenging that you can't reach it with hard work. So I always like to think, you know, if I really, really worked my tail off, where could I get to in this amount of time? And then that's my data target. Okay, so there are two kinds of goals. There's outcome goals and there's process goals. And if nothing else in this webcast, I hope you will hear about the process goals. I think those are really important, but they're both important. So let's talk about both of them. So outcome goals. Outcome goals are the desired thing that you want through the result of all your actions. So it's your desired outcome. So for me, I wanted to be able to do a flying mount and dismount. For someone else, it might be to do a sub 4-hour marathon, or to be in the top 10 at nationals, or to be on the podium at a local race, or whatever. Those are the outcomes of all your hard work. So you work and you work and you work, you do all these, you know, you build your fitness and you improve your technique, and these are the outcomes that you're hoping for. So there's some real benefits to outcome goals. I think they're important. One benefit is that they provide you direction, as I mentioned earlier. If I know that I want to make Team USA, I better work really, really hard to get there. So your goals provide direction, and also they tell you how hard you need to work. The drawback of outcome goals is that there are a lot of things that are out of your control. If your outcome goal is to be on a podium, the weather's going to impact that. The makeup of the course will impact that. Who else shows up? If six really, really the best athletes in the world show up, it's going to be really hard to make that podium. And also the actions of others in a race. You can get boxed in the swim. You can get cut off on your bike. I mean, there's just a lot of things in a race that you have no control over. So while outcome goals are important because they provide direction, in my opinion, that's the limit of their importance. They find direction for you. They define that direction for you. Okay, but let's also talk about there are different levels of outcome goals. So my coach likes to call the top level crazy goals. So crazy goals are goals that are so pie in the sky out there that you would keep them secret, because if you told anybody that goal, they would think you were absolutely nuts. So realistic goals, on the other hand, are goals that with a lot of hard work you can nail. And then fallback goals I'll talk about right at the end. So, but right now I want to talk about just crazy goals and realistic goals. So I'm going to tell you a little story. My crazy goals, my very first crazy goal was to complete a triathlon. At that time, I weighed like 300 pounds. I was so unfit that thinking about doing a triathlon was just crazy. I mean, if I had told anybody that, they would have rolled their eyes. I mean, it was just nuts. So, but having that as a crazy goal, even though I never really thought I would do a triathlon, but when I went to my exercise classes and I was doing crunches, I would be thinking to myself, I'm training for a triathlon. It just kind of gave purpose to my exercise. When I was first, starting to run, and I mean, my first run was literally 10 feet. That was it. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I'm training for a triathlon. So it was just, it's just fun to have those crazy goals. So after I had done triathlons for one season, I got another crazy goal, and that was I saw these people at these competitors at different triathlons, and they had on these Team USA uniforms, kits. They had USA in their name across the front, across the back. And I just thought that was so cool. And I thought, oh, maybe I could be part of Team USA someday. I mean, I was coming in dead last at every single of my local triathlons, and I'm 280 pounds, 300 pounds. And I just, it was just, I mean, that would have been crazy to tell anybody that. So just as a heads up, to qualify for Team USA, you have to compete at the national championship, which you have to qualify for first. And then you have to, at that time, you had to be in the top 18. But if you were placed 19th through 25th, you could be like an alternate. And if one of the top 18 couldn't go for some reason to the World Championship on behalf of the United States, then they would call an alternate up. So I started, thinking about that crazy goal, and that kind of got me excited for a while. Maybe I'll get to wear one of those cool Team USA uniforms. So, but then I started to wonder, what would happen if I really committed? And I find that so many of my goals that end up being really important goals start out with those two words, I wonder. I wonder what would happen if I really committed. I wonder what would happen if I did this technique differently. I wonder what would happen if. And then I would just do it and see what happened. So I decided to make a realistic goal around being on Team USA. So at my first national championship, I came in 29th. So that was really far away from being 18th. So I started to think about, 18th, that was really a push. But if I really, really committed, how high could I go? And I decided that if I really worked hard, I could maybe move up to 25th if I really worked hard, and I could be an alternate. And it never occurred to me that I could actually be on Team USA. I just wanted to be an alternate, and that would have just, I would have, all my life said, I was an alternate for Team USA. That would have been so cool. And then I started thinking about the timeline, and I decided it would take me 3 years to do that. So that became my realistic goal, to do whatever it took to be really committed and to move, hopefully, as an outcome goal, from 29th to 25th in 3 years. So I didn't tell anybody about that goal for a long time, but I eventually told my coach. And my coach is Brant Baylor. He's wonderful. And he said, no. He said, no to 25th in 3 years. And then he said, not 25th, let's be 18th, and let's just qualify for Team USA this year. Let's forget about being an alternate. Let's just be on the team, and let's do it this year. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I thought he was nuts. I mean, that was a crazy goal, not a realistic goal. But we talked, and I'll never forget those talks. Coach Brand is he's very encouraging and motivating. And I remember him saying, quote, "Sue, you are good. You are really good." And at that time, I thought of myself as a pseudo athlete or an athlete wannabe. I didn't even think of myself as an athlete. And he's telling me, you're good enough to make Team USA. And I just had to trust him. And so I said, okay, let's do it. If you believe it can happen, I believe it can happen. And we started working really hard. I became rather relentless about working hard. My mottos became no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way, leaves no stone unturned. And I committed to looking for places where I could be 6 seconds faster. I figured if I found 10 places where I could be 6 seconds faster, that would be an entire minute. So that meant no missed workouts. I even canceled a family vacation because it was going to interfere with training. And I just really, really, really committed. So then, after 3 or 4 months of training for hopefully to make Team USA, USA Triathlon threw us a curveball. They said, we're changing the qualification, and no longer will there be 18 people who qualify. There will just be 8. And at this time, we didn't know that there would be a second qualifying event where 10 more would qualify. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm got to be 8th to qualify, 29th to 8th. That is a big, big, big jump. And I'm starting to think that's a crazy goal. There's just no way. So I talked to my coach again, and he said, so let's be 8th. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that was, yeah, I think I just stared at him because I thought he can't be serious, but he was serious. So we trained and trained and trained to be 8th. And that really, for me, that brought huge pressure because I really thought that was a crazy dream. And I really feared disappointing Coach Brant. I really enjoy working with my coach, and I know when his athletes are successful, that pleases him, makes him happy. And all I could think about was me not making 8th and how disappointed he was going to be. And it just took the joy out of training. And I finally decided I needed to talk to my coach about that. So we were at the pool one day, and I was kind of just like that in the picture. I was standing in the water, he was up on the deck, and I told him, I said, this 8th, I just feel so much pressure, and it's taking the joy out of this. And Coach Brant said, 8th may be a crazy goal, but who knows? Who knows how far you can go? you don't know until you put in that effort, and then we see where you end up. So he said, let's go for it. And, that really taught me a lesson about how when you have a big goal like that, you just keep taking one step forward, one foot after another, and just keep going. And, I think he was right not to change the goal, but to just keep plugging and see how far I could get. So I've worked so hard, and Coach Brandt worked hard too. I mean, both of us really, between his training plans and his help with technique, and I mean, we really, both of us worked our tails off. And I went to nationals hoping to be 8th, and competed, had the race of my life. I just executed my race plan really, really well, and I crossed the finish line perfectly with not a drop of gas left in the tank. I mean, I just left it all on the course. And the results came up, and I so badly wanted to be 8th, and I was 11th. So, of course, disappointment hit. I know it hit me. I know it hit Coach Brandt too. But I was very pleased that for me, and I think for Coach Brandt as well, it was very short-lived. And by short-lived, I mean, like for me, less than a minute. I mean, it was like, oh, shoot. And then it was, okay, what do we got to do for next year? And Coach Brandt was the same way. We just went back to the drawing board and figured out what do we got to do for next year. So we figured it out, worked hard all year, went back to nationals the next year, hoping to be 8th, and I was 9th. So again, disappointment, back to the drawing board, and worked another year. And then at the next one, finally, I finished in the top 8 and qualified for Worlds. So yeah, I learned a lot of things about goals, and about crazy goals and realistic goals, and about disappointment. Disappointment is temporary, and thankfully for me, it doesn't last very long. I have athlete friends who, have gone to a really important race and not performed like they hoped to, and that disappointment has lasted a long time. And actually, going through the stages of grief with that disappointment, because when you have this picture of something happening and then it doesn't, there's a sense of loss. So yeah, but it's temporary. Eventually you make it past it. And then I also learned that every race is just preparation for the next race. So even though, I came in 11th at that nationals after we had worked so hard, I just figured, great, this is a great experience. It's just going to prepare me for the next race. And then finally, I started to think about process goals, which I think are incredibly important. To be honest with you, I rarely worry now about outcome goals. I just figure I'm going to race my tail off and try to get as high as I can in the finishing list. But it's really the process goals that drive me and energize me. So let's look at process goals. So a process goal is the day-to-day things that you can control that will increase your chances for a golden outcome. So I love process goals. I can guarantee process goals. I can tell Coach Brandt, I'm going to do this tomorrow, and I'll do it. So I like process goals because there's nothing, that's out of my control. I can make them happen. So Gwen Jorgensen, she's my hero. She's the 2016 Olympic gold medalist in triathlon. She also believes in process goals. She writes a lot about them. I love this quote: "I believe in process-driven goals, but I still aspire for a golden outcome." She posted that on her social media exactly 1 year before she won the Olympic gold medal. So yeah, so for Gwen, it's just all about process, doing what you have to do every day to get that golden outcome. So lots of benefits for process goals. One, they're in our control. They increase our chances for reaching the outcome that we want. And I started looking for drawbacks, and I really didn't find any, at least not for me. I think, process goals are where it's at. And for me, they're incredibly energizing. So here's some examples of process goals in triathlon. So on the left column, where it says route on the top, I call those root causes. So these are the things that are getting in the way of me achieving the goal that I want to achieve. So my training, I have to, my fitness, I have to have really good training to get to my goal. I have to have good nutrition to get to my goal. I have to have good sleep. I have to have a good coach-athlete relationship. I have to execute my race plan well, and I have to have a good attitude. So those are the things that if I work on those things are likely to end up with a golden outcome. So, and then some of the goals for me during that year that we were trying to, for the first time, qualify for Team USA and the World Championship, and every year since then, my goals are, no missed workouts, do every workout exactly as Coach Brandt wrote it, and to focus every second in a workout. What when I'm swimming, what's my arm doing? What are my hips doing? Where's my head? I'm focusing all the time. Following my nutrition plan, being in bed 9 hours, that is the hardest one for me. Coach-athlete relationship, being my coach's eyes and ears when he's not there. And when I report to him, being totally honest, bringing issues to the table. That being honest, I think is really important for any relationship, but especially with a coach-athlete relationship where the coach is not always on deck. So if a workout was really, really hard and I ended up crying in the middle of it, I'd tell Coach Grant I cried today, so that he'd have that feedback, even though that was not something I really wanted to share with him. So attitude, finding every six seconds, turning over every stone, being coachable, no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. These are things that I could control. And my logic was, if I do these things, the outcome will take care of itself. So I tend not to stress on the outcome. I just, think about these process goals every day. Okay, so process evaluation. I think every day I kind of look to see, did I do this workout as designed? Today I did a run workout, and afterwards I looked at my data and thought, did I do what Coach Brandt wanted me to do, and did I practice the technique that we're trying to work on? And so every day I'm evaluating. But the big evaluation comes at the start line at races. At the start line, I feel so blessed because I'm always very confident before my races. I love that moment before I race. And I'm confident because I know I've met all my process goals. I've done everything that I could do to make this race go as well as I could. And so when I step up to the start line, I just know I've done what I could do, and I'm proud of myself for doing those things. And I'm pleased, and I just, it's just a wonderful moment. So it also means to me that no matter what the outcome is of the race, that I'm a winner. So is also when I cross the finish line, I have just the most incredible sense of satisfaction. Um, and it doesn't matter where I came in. I just feel so good knowing that I did what it took to do to be the best that I could be for that race. So it's all about the satisfaction, I think, of meeting my process goals that really drives me in triathlon. It's not the outcome. I could finish, well, when I was finishing dead last in the beginning, that was fine because I knew I'd hit my process goals. So yeah, so that's the process evaluation. Then I wanted to talk really quickly about fallback goals. I only use fallback goals in workouts. And here's how that works. So I may be doing a swim set where Coach Brandon has asked me to do, I don't know, 20, 100, 1000s at a certain pace. And I do the first two, and I hit and nail that target pace. Then I come up to the third one and I don't hit it. And I'm thinking, shoot, try harder on the next one. So I hit the next one and I don't hit it. And then I start, not hitting the next couple. And it used to be, when I started triathlon, that I'd get kind of down on myself and really frustrated for not hitting those targets. I'd finish a lap, touch the end of the pool, look at my sports watch, and I'd say out loud, "Shoot!" Or sometimes I'd even punch the water. I'd just be so frustrated. But then I learned to have fallback goals. So on those days when I'm in the gym running, or I'm swimming or on my bike and I can't hit the watts that I'm supposed to hit, and I try harder, and it's just not happening. I'm just having an off day. What I'll do is I'll say, okay, you're not going to hit that target, but what can you hit today? And then I'll go for that as a fallback goal, and I'll try to have that outcome. So if I can't hit the exact target, I'll say, what can you hit today? And then I'll hit that one. And then, of course, I share all that information with my coach, and then he's trying to decide, was it just an off day, or do we need more recovery for Sue, or whatever. But yeah, so those are fallback goals, that if you can't hit the realistic goals, then you hit a fallback. So, okay. So summary, for all of your goals, these are things that are important. They're your goals, they're well written, they're monitored with data, they're challenging but realistic. And then there's two kinds of goals that we talked about: outcome goals that are out of your control. And within outcome goals, there are crazy goals that are wonderful because they give us energy and direction. Then there's realistic goals and fallback goals. And then there's those wonderful process goals that really tell you what to do every day. So they're day-to-day actions, they're within your control. And for me, and I think for most people, they're just powerful and they're energizing. And if you do them, your outcomes are likely to be golden. So that's a little bit about goals. Let's a couple of just announcements. One is that we'll be doing another webinar, number 2, on plans that energize. So once you have goals, then how do you create plans that will allow you to monitor your process goals and make sure that your process goals get in place? So that was all those times when I failed to lose weight. When I tried to diet, it was because I didn't have a plan. When I got a plan in place and committed to that plan and put accountability with it, that was when it made a difference. So I'll be talking about planning to reach your goals, and then also maintaining motivation. Nobody is motivated every day. I certainly am not. There are days when there's no way I want to go to the gym or the pool or get on my bike. But we'll talk about how to maintain, how to follow your plan when you're not feeling especially motivated. So that webinar is going to be March 4th. It'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then I'll announce the login URL on my Facebook page when it gets closer to March 4th. So, and then the other thing is that I'm creating a Facebook group that I'm calling the Athlete Inside Street Team. It's just for people that would be so kind as to help me promote the book. The book's release date is April 28th. And so these are folks that will just join this Facebook group, and then I'll be posting things on the group that they can then share with their social media. So word of mouth is better than anything in terms of letting people know about good books to read. So we're really hoping to get several people involved in this Facebook group as the Athlete Inside Street Team. Also, people that join that Facebook group will get an advanced copy of the introduction in chapter 1, and we'll have some drawings for prizes for people that share posts. And then on May 13th, after everybody's had a chance to read the book, we'll do a special Q&A just for the Facebook group members, so that if you have any questions after you've read the book, you can ask me. So okay, so that's the street team. And again, if you go into Facebook and just search for the Athlete Inside Street Team, you'll come up with it, and then just join the group. Okay, Q&A. We had a great questions last night. I want to share two of them with you. Um, Karen asked, in the days when you didn't see any progress toward your goals, what motivated you to keep pushing forward? Um, and I thought that was a really good question because we are not motivated to move forward always. And actually, it's because of her question that I decided to make that part of the next webinar. But just in short, one of the things I think is really important is to realize that you can still work out when you're not motivated. You can still follow a nutrition plan when you feel like eating 6 trillion cookies. Um, it's not motivation that makes you successful, it's discipline. And so, I think that's an important thing to realize, that it really doesn't matter if you're not motivated. What matters is if you're disciplined. And then the other thing, as I thought about Karen's question, was I think that patience um, is a real attribute for people that are on journeys. I knew when I started losing weight that I was not going to lose 200 pounds in 6 months. I knew it was going to take years, but I figured, heck, at 2 pounds a week, I could lose 100 pounds maybe in 1 year if I just stuck with it. So I think just having patience and understanding that, journeys take a long time. There's no quick fix. If there were a quick fix, we would all be skinny and terribly fit. So there isn't a quick fix. It just takes time, and that takes patience. So yeah, so that's Karen's question. And then another question came from Christine. Christine asked me if I could talk a little bit about the spiritual side of the book. And there is a spiritual side of the book. So there's kind of three journeys that I write about. One, of course, is weight loss, and then fitness and triathlon. And then about halfway through the book, I started writing about the spiritual changes that I started to go through. And basically, in my weight loss and triathlon journeys, there were so many people that were nice to me. I mean, just the kindness that was showered upon me through my journey was just unbelievable. And I mean, there was so much kindness that it started to freak me out. I kept thinking, why are all these people being so nice? And then I started to think about, could this be like the face of God? And is this how God reaches out to us, through the kindness of others? And yeah, so that kind of started me thinking about the spiritual side of my journey. And then later, out of the blue, and this is another part of the book, out of the blue, my coach said to me, Sue, God loves you just the way you are. And I didn't even know he was Christian. And that just kind of blew me away. And then finally, toward the end of the book, I talk about a catastrophe that Coach Brandt had in his family right as we were getting ready to go to the first world championship, and witnessing his faith, the strength of his faith that carried him through that catastrophe. And I had just never seen a faith as strong as his, and it really, really impacted me. So I wrote about that in the book because it was a part of my journey. So this is the spiritual side is not a preachy part of the book. It just was part of me. So there's the weight loss side, and then the triathlon side, and then the fitness side. So yeah, so that's the answer to Christine's question. So okay, so thank you so much for listening to this webcast, and thank you to those who listened last night when it didn't get recorded, and for those who are listening to the archived version. So appreciate it so much. Appreciate all of your support for me and my journey, and your encouragement, and again, your kindness. My Facebook friends too. Some of you, I've actually been meeting some of my Facebook friends for the first time at different races, and it's kind of fun. But it's been really really nice and special to have your support as well. So thanks everybody, and please feel free to share this webcast with others, and please come back for webcast number 2. Thanks so much.